A company known as OpenAI creates a chatbot known as ChatGPT. And this chatbot is released on the 30th November 2022. This marked the initial stages of the introduction and the laying of the foundation of generative artificial intelligence. Now, OpenAI started in 2015, right, with the backing of Elon Musk and Sam Altman, right, to establish a private, non-profit, right, research facility known as OpenAI. Now, around February of 2018, Elon Musk decided to leave the company. And around 1 year later, in March of 2019, the company switched from being an non-profit private research facility to a basic for-profit company. And one of their major funders for this move was Microsoft, with the funding amount of about 1 billion US dollars. And yet again, in 2018, they managed to release the first version of ChatGPT, right? Now, GPT stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer. Now, the first generative pre-trained transformer, right, had about 117 million parameters attached to it. Now, when we speak of parameters, right, we are fundamentally speaking of language model parameters, the type of different of dimensions that exist in a language, be it words, figures of speech, different expressions, idioms, poems, etc. Right? The first version of ChatGPT 1 in 2018 had 117 million parameters. And in 2019, the second version of the Chat GPT-2, right, had about 1.5 billion parameters, right? 1.5 billion language model parameters. And the Chat GPT released in 2020 had a parameter level of about 175 billion language model parameters. So as you can see, the parameters of these language models, right, which were established by OpenAI through a chatbot, right, they grow quite fast, right, and exponentially, right? Now, when we look deeper into Chat GPT-3, right? This language model, this large language model, right, is basically good for putting sentences together using words and expressions that the processor or the transformer, the GPT, finds on the net. Now, but at this level of technology, the chat GPT, right, basically generated sentences that were filled with hatred, violence, bigotry, and basically talking down on its requester. Now, the main problem that occurred with the Chat GPT-3, right, is that it tends to generate hallucinations, right? Well, when a AI model generates hallucinations, right? It's basically lying, basically generating something that doesn't exist, right? For example, you wanted to generate a blue sky, right? But instead it gives you a purple sky, right? That is known as a hallucination in the artificial intelligence generative pre-trained transformer world. Now, these type of problems were also seen in the AI which was produced, the chatbot which was produced by Microsoft in 2016, right? Within 24 hours of Microsoft putting this on the net, right, and it being trained by the public or the people on the internet, within 24 hours, it started having bad language, right? Uh, it was also full of bigotry and violence, right? And a lot of hallucinations. Another example is with the Meta chatbot known as BlenderBot, right? Released in August of 2022, right? Same problems, hallucinations, bad language, bigotry, and basically violent speech. Now, another major issue, right, with the chat GPT-3, right, is that you need to be quite a skilled promptsman, right? Meaning the prompts that you feed the transformer or the chat GPT must come from a very educated and skilled knowledge base, right? You need to know how to talk to this AI for it to give you what you want. Now, because of the level of bad language, bigotry, violence, and hatred that was generated from the prompts, right, that you input into this chatbot, right, a OpenAI, right, needed to find a solution to make um, Chat GTP, right, less toxic. Now, basically, OpenAI, what they did was to employ workers that are based in China, right, and employ them at a rate of about $1 and $1.50 per hour, right, to basically make Chat GPT less toxic by sending them different phrases and expressions and sayings, right, that you find on the internet. They also included expressions which are used in on the dark web, right? The most gruesome things, the most hateful, the most bigoted, the worst of the worst. These were sent to Kenyan workers to basically label them and create an algorithm, right, that makes the chat GPT, right, less toxic. Now, after this, OpenAI managed to release a new version, a new and improved version of Chat GPT 3.5, right? Where you needed less prompting skills, right? And it does not generate a lot of hallucinations, right? And it does not generate bad language, bigotry, hatred, and violence. All of this is based on a technology or a model, right, that is known as an LLM, right? The Chat GPT 3.5 is based on a technology known as LLM. LLM stands for Large Language Model, right? So, ChatGPT, the way it works, it uses a large language model, right, to generate new expressions, new sayings, right, when is requested by the person using the technology. Now, the latest version of the Chat GPT, right, that has been released is known as the Chat GPT 4, right, which basically has two types of main features in it. First one is the GPT, the Generative Pre-trained Transformer, right, integrated into this chatbot. And a second one known as the NLP, right, the Natural Language Processor or processing, meaning that you don't need as much of prompting skills as you needed with the previous versions, right? Now you can use natural language to make your request, and natural results generated by this technology will result.